Now it's time for a call for help. We got Brad on the line. Brad, where are you calling from today?
I'm calling from Martinsville, Indiana.
Nice to see you. And wait a minute, it looks like you're wearing an Ubuntu t-shirt.
That's right, I am.
Are you a Linux user?
I am a Linux user. All my machines are Linux. The wife has Windows 10, but it's hard convincing her to switch.
You know, it's funny. I'm working on Lisa to do the same thing, to switch over to. I got her to switch to Mac.
She says, no way.
She says, no way, no way. So what can we do for you today?
Sure. So really, I'm trying to learn Python, and I'm just having a hard time staying focused. And after watching the tease at the beginning, I just figured if I had that Purism laptop, I could probably bang out everything, and all my problems would be solved.
So you're learning Python? Is that the language you've decided to learn?
Yes, Python.
Yeah. Python is a fun language. I think it's a good starting language. It's clean, it's easy. There are a couple of things I would look for in any language. One is an environment that encourages you to experiment. Python, of course, has that in spades. You can enter the interpreter, try out things. It also has a lot of different tools. And then the other thing you always want to look for in a language, if you're going to be using it for any length of time, is a strong community library, something like Perl's CPAN.
Exactly.
Python has an excellent library. There's pretty much nothing you can't do with a Python library, and the quality of many of the library modules is very, very good.
Very good.
Especially for science, scientific, and numeric calculations. There's nothing like it. But you want to stay motivated?
Yeah, just trying to keep motivated. I think even starting the language, I mean, I listen to podcasts and read the books and watch the videos, but I think the main thing is just staying focused and motivated.
I'll tell you, to me, the #1 challenge when you're learning a language is having something to do.
Exactly. Yep.
You need a motivator. It needs to be a project, something you need to write or you want to write or somebody's asked you to write, and you're much more likely to go further in the language, I think, if you've got some task that you need to solve.
That's exactly what I was going to say. In fact, I think that's true of all learning, not just learning a new programming language, but any learning. Anytime you can apply what you're learning, have some sort of hands-on experience, and definitely have something you're interested in that you are applying your learning to, that's how I learn languages. And that's how I started learning Python. Because Python was widely supported on the Raspberry Pi, and I wanted to learn how to use the Raspberry Pi for certain projects. In fact, I've got one coming up in the near future we can talk about that I'm using Python and the Raspberry Pi for. But I wanted to learn how to do certain things with the Raspberry Pi, and Python was the perfect choice for that. So it wasn't so much about learning the language, it was how do I get from point A to point B? How do I build the robot, or how do I make my sprinkler system for my house function? How do I do that? And then say, okay, the tool that I'm going to use, I'm going to pull out of my tool belt is, in this case, Python. I don't know how the tool works, but I know that in the end, I'm going to use that tool to get the job done. And so finding something you're interested in, what are your interests? I mean, what do you do in your spare time? Is there anything that you can pick up and say, hey, I love gardening, or I love video games, or something like that, and you can say, yeah, I'm going to take a challenge. I'm going to set for myself a challenge to make this particular
And don't make it too hard, by the way. Make it something you can win at. You want to win.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because I do sysadmin work, so I thought, you know, but then of course that's work. So, you know, I don't necessarily. Well, I guess I could try to make it easier.
Yeah, Python is widely used because it's a interpreted language, and it's widely used for system administration. That's what Perl was written to do, was to kind of replace shell scripting. Rust is also commonly used for that. Let me show you the bookmarks that I have for precisely this, because first thing to understand, Brad, is you're going through what everybody goes through when they're trying to learn a new language. And this is the first one that I mentioned. This is one I found 10 years ago from a guy named Prashant Matra, 15 exercises for learning a new programming language. He was in a position with his job of having to learn new languages all the time. So what he would do is, instead of reading a bunch of manuals and book pages, he'd read 10 to 15 pages of a tutorial, keep a syntax card handy, and then work his way through these 15 exercises. And they're pretty simple. In fact, the hardest thing the first time through is just thinking about the algorithm and stuff. Because once you know how to do a Fibonacci sequence, for instance, then it's just a question of learning the different syntax. They do get harder and harder, and I've seen others inspired by this, write other little similar exercises. But these are very simple. It's get the system time and convert it to different formats. Create files with date and timestamp appended to the name. And this, for a sysadmin, a lot of these you'll see are kind of useful. I don't think we need the Fibonacci sequence very often, but some of those are very useful. There are even websites now designed to do this. This is something called exercism.io, level up your programming skills, and it's practice problems you can download in 30 different languages. So this is specifically designed to help people exactly in your position get good with languages with some basic problems. And of course, Python is a part of that. 60 problems in Python. Finally, this is something I actually keep on my phone, Project Euler. They have an Android app, I think. These are challenging. Now, these tend to be more mathematical, as you might guess from the name Euler. But they are programming problems that you can solve in order. That's really fun. There are a number of sites like this for varying languages. I have one for Clojure. It's called Foreclosure. It's an app, and it just gives you a problem, you solve it, and then another problem, you solve it. Nice. You can see what other people's solutions are. They're shared. So there are a number of these, but there's a few to start with. What do you I like your idea because you're a maker.
Yeah, you got to have something you're interested in. You said you're a sysadmin. I mean, one of the things that I like to do with Python is just parse log files or parse information coming out of other systems. So maybe write something on your system at home, one of your Linux boxes, that's parsing one of the system logs, or parsing a log file out of something you're running on that system. Or you might want to take it from there and say, okay, now can I parse something or get some information from a system across the room or a different system, and then can I combine all those and aggregate the data and display it on an HTML page so that it makes my life easier as a sysadmin.
Yeah.
I mean, I would do something like that if I had your interest.
Because then you get a payoff. Right?
Yeah, you get a payoff.
Oh, that really helped.
You're like, wow, here's a problem, or here's something that, I'm running all these Linux boxes.
I just do this all the time.
Here's something I can't do easily. Use Python to make that easier, make your life easier, and it's a great way to learn the language that way.
I remember reading an article about I guess this was on Business Insider, a programmer who, if he found something took more than a minute or two, he would write a program to automate it, including emailing his wife and making a latte. And this is a great article. This was out in Business Insider in November 2015. You could find it. There's even a GitHub project around it and his little programmers. And it's really funny. He says, anything takes more than 90 seconds, I'm going to automate it. Now, that's probably a little crazy, but I think as a sysadmin, you kind of understand that. You find yourself doing the same thing over and over, and at some point you make the calculation, okay, half an hour to write a program, or let's just keep doing this for a minute and a half every time it comes up. At some point you want to kind of say, okay, I'm going to write a script.
Yeah, instead of writing a bash script around an activity like that, try a Python script, see how it works.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, Python's a lot easier, frankly, than writing bash.
Well, especially like you mentioned the libraries. There's great, there's config parsers library that I'm using right now, which is fantastic. There's socket libraries, which are really easy to implement, so you can send stuff back and forth between computers.
I needed an XML parser, and boy, you just go to the library and it's all done for you. It's as easy as it could possibly be. Here's the foreclosure site. This isn't much use to anybody who does except Clojure people, but I bet you there's something like this for Python. It's kind of fun because as you solve the problem, you can actually do it on the website, solve it typing into the website because it's got a REPL built in, and then you can see what other people's solutions are. This is a great way to learn a language. This is kind of
because then you're surprised. Like, oh, that's how they did that. How did they get that done so quickly or in so many, so few lines?
Yeah, it's really fantastic. Fun. But Brad, you're not alone. It's a fun journey, and I think it's Python's wonderful. Everybody should know Python.
It's great. Yeah.
The other thing, get a Raspberry Pi.
Yep.
And do you play Minecraft ever, Brad?
Yeah, I have.
Oh,
yeah.
See, now this is what I tell parents to do with their kids. The kid says, Dad, I want a computer so I can play Minecraft in my room. You give him a Raspberry Pi, and it's got an API and a version of Minecraft that you can program with Python. You can build stuff with Python code, giant watermelon rainbows. One of the first exercises in the book that I recommend, how to learn how to program with Python, you make it so that as you walk, you leave dynamite behind you, and you walk, you leave a giant dynamite trail, and then you light it, and the whole world blows up. Every kid loves that.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I kind of enjoyed it, too.
Yep.
Brad, thank you so much for joining us. Have fun.
All right. Cheers.
Yeah. All right. Programming is so much fun.
It is.
But the challenge is, well, what do I do?
Yeah, and it's not fun unless I think it's not fun unless you have an end goal in mind.
Yeah.
Something that you're interested in that you want to make happen. And then it becomes like magic.
You don't learn the clarinet just to play scales.
Exactly, yeah.
Right? You're trying to learn Bohemian
sound
Rhapsody.
like, was it Benny Goodman?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, you want to sound like Benny Goodman?
Yeah, you want to sound like Benny Goodman.